It's a Friday. You're sitting in your car in the parking lot of whatever building just handed you your first real paycheck. Not the summer job, not the weekend shifts, the first one that arrived on a schedule, with your name printed cleanly on something that looked official. You hold it for a second longer than necessary. The number is smaller than you expected and larger than anything you've personally controlled before. You don't know what to do with it. Nobody told you what to do with it. So you drive to the bank, deposit most of it, and spend the rest on something you can't name 3 weeks later. That is not a failure. That is the default. And the default was built by people who benefit from you, not knowing there was another option. This is the conversation nobody scheduled. Not your parents, because they were doing their best inside a system they didn't fully understand either. Not your school, because personal finance was an elective, and the elective met on Thursday afternoons, and nobody told you it was the most important class in the building. Not your employer, because your employer benefits from your labor and not from your freedom. The instructions were never in the envelope. They were never going to be. So here they are. You are 22. You have something you will never have again in exactly this form. You have time. Not the vague, inspirational kind, the mathematical kind, the kind that turns small numbers into large ones without asking your permission, the kind that works the same whether you understand it or not. The only question is whether it works for you or simply passes through your hands on the way to someone else's account. Here's the first thing nobody told you. The most powerful financial decision of your life is not a decision that feels powerful. It doesn't arrive with a dramatic moment or a number large enough to take seriously. It arrives the same way that first paycheck did, quietly, on a schedule. And it asks a question so small that most people answer it without realizing they answered it at all. The question is simply this: where does the first part of this go? Before the rent, before the groceries, before the phone bill, and the night out, and the thing you've been waiting to afford? Where does the first part go? Most people answer that question by not answering it. The money arrives and the money leaves and the sequence handles itself. And the years pass, and one day the sequence has handled 40 of them, and the answer has already been given 10,000 times in a row. You are 22. You open an account you will not touch. You move a number into it that feels too small to matter. $50, $80, whatever the budget allows after the non-negotiables. You set it to leave automatically on the same day the paycheck arrives, before you can have an opinion about it, before it can be claimed by something louder. You buy the most boring fund in existence. The whole market. No opinion required. One button. You close the app. You feel nothing. That is correct. The feeling is not where the work happens. The work happens in the account, while you are at dinner, while you are asleep, while you're sitting in the parking lot of a building that doesn't yet know your name. You're 25, 3 years in. Your balance is somewhere around $4,000. You put in roughly $3,000 of your own. The market added the rest while you weren't watching. The rest is not the point yet. The habit is. A friend your age mentions he's been meaning to start. He's been meaning to start since graduation. There was always a reason to wait. The car needed work. The lease was too high. The timing never felt right. The timing never feels right because the timing was never the obstacle. The obstacle is that nobody explained what waiting actually costs, not in motivational terms. In arithmetic, every year you wait at 22 is not 1 year of contributions you miss. It is 1 year of compounding you remove from every dollar that comes after it. The cost of waiting is not linear. It is exponential, and it runs quietly in the background of every financial decision you make for the rest of your life without ever announcing itself. Your friend will start eventually. Most people do. And when he does, the account will grow and the balance will climb and everything will look the same from the outside. The difference will live in a number he can't see yet. The years that were missing from the front of the timeline. the ones that would have done the heaviest lifting. Those years are not recoverable. They are not a tragedy. They are simply expensive in a currency nobody named for him when it was still cheap. You are 28. You got the raise. The real one. The kind that changes the number on the offer letter in a way that feels like an arrival. And the arrival feels like permission. Permission to take the better apartment, the newer car, the version of the weekend that used to require calculation. This is the moment the system was waiting for. Not your employer, not your landlord. The entire architecture of modern spending, which was designed with one purpose: to ensure that every time your income rises, your expenses rise to meet it, before you can do anything else with the difference. Lifestyle inflation does not knock. It does not announce itself. It arrives as a series of completely reasonable upgrades, each one justified, each one affordable, each one quietly sealing the gap between what you earn and what you keep. You take the better apartment, it is $300 more a month. You trade the car, the payment is $190. You add the subscriptions, the better gym, the dinners that are now within reach. By the time the raise finishes landing, you're spending $1,200 more a month than you were before it arrived. The raise was $1,400. You kept $200. You deposited it into the feeling of doing well. The feeling is real. The account disagrees. The account remembers that $200 is not what you told yourself you would do when the raise came through. It remembers the number you named in your head the week the offer was signed. Half. You were going to save half. $200 is not half. $200 is what was left after the life expanded to consume the rest. This is not a failure of character. This is a failure of architecture. The spending had no wall, so it filled the space the way water fills a container. The shape of the container was the raise, and you handed it the shape before you could decide differently. The version of you that built the wall first moved 2/3 of the raise into the account before the apartment search began. She did not feel it leave. The money departed before it had a name, before it belonged to anything. She took the apartment that was $200 more instead of $300. She kept the car another year. The life on the outside looked nearly identical. The account did not look nearly identical. The account looked like someone had made a different decision at a fork that had no sign on it. You are 32. You do the thing you have been avoiding. You open the calculator and you type in your balance and your monthly contribution, and you push it forward 30 years, and you look at the number. Then you delete the 22 from the starting age and type 32. The final figure drops by an amount that does not feel proportional. You run it again. You didn't fumble a digit. The 10 years that passed between the first paycheck and this calculation cost more than 10 years of contributions, because the dollars you didn't invest at 22 were the dollars that would have had the longest time to multiply. The earliest money is the most expensive money to skip. A single dollar invested at 22 is worth more at 65 than $4 invested at 32. Nobody printed that on the envelope. You sit with the number. The instinct is to feel behind. Behind is a feeling that arrives easily and helps with nothing. You set it down. You are not 22. You will not be 22 again. The decade behind you is not recoverable, and no amount of clarity about it produces a single dollar in the account in front of you. The question is not how to recover the years you didn't invest. The question is what the years ahead are worth and whether you will do anything with them before they join the ones behind you. You make the decision that night. Not a goal, not a plan, not yet. A decision. They feel similar and they are not the same thing. The savings rate climbs. The gap between income and spending widens on purpose for the first time. You are late to the thing, and you're still early enough for the thing to matter enormously. Both are true. Only one of them is useful. Sign on it. You are 40. There are two of you now, though there was only ever one starting point, one salary range, one city, one ordinary life. The first version did the thing at 22 that felt too small to matter. $50 a month becoming 80, becoming 200 as the income grew. Automated, unspectacular. Never once mentioned at a dinner table. The balance at 40 is somewhere around $90,000. Of that, she contributed roughly $32,000 herself across 18 years. The other $58,000 appeared out of time. Money she never earned, never worked an hour for, never noticed arriving. The account built a second floor while she was living on the first one. The second version started at 32. Same salary, same raises, same city. He's doing everything correctly now. The savings rate is real, the contributions are consistent, the fund is the same boring fund. His balance at 40 is around 28,000. The gap between them is not a gap in income or intelligence or discipline. The gap is a decade. One decade of compounding that the first version bought at 22 for the price of $50 a month, and the second version cannot purchase at any price now because the decade is gone. There is no account for that. There is no fund. Time was the asset. Time was always the only asset that mattered, and the only one that could not be recovered once spent. They are sitting in the same parking lot tonight. Different cars, similar enough. Same kind of building behind them. The first version has a number she has never touched and never planned to touch, sitting quietly behind her life like a second person who has been working the whole time. The second version is building his. The building is real, and the destination is real, and the gap will narrow across the decades that remain. But the decade that is gone. Not a tragedy. Just expensive. Just the cost of the instructions that were never in the envelope. Here is what was in the envelope. It should have been. The system is not designed to explain itself to you. The school was not built to make you financially free. The employer was not hired to protect your future. The entire architecture of spending was constructed to ensure that every dollar you earn finds somewhere else to be before you decide to keep it. None of this is conspiracy. All of it is simply structure. And structure wins against intention every time unless you build a counter-structure first, a number that leaves before you can spend it. A fund so boring it requires no opinion. An account you do not open from fear and do not close from panic. A habit so small it feels meaningless, right up until the decade it spent working announces itself in a balance you stopped expecting. You are 22. The paycheck is still in your hand. It is smaller than you expected and larger than anything you have personally controlled before. The instructions were not in the envelope. Nobody scheduled this conversation. Nobody was going to. The system was never going to explain the system. That was always going to be something you found or something you didn't. You found it. The only question left is the one that was always the only question. Where does the first part go? Before the rent, before the groceries, before the night out and the upgrade, and the version of the weekend you've been waiting to afford. You already know the answer. You knew it before the end of this sentence. The only thing left is to let it leave before you can change your mind. You can